I wanted to talk about you being nominated as U.S. Surgeon General.
That's correct.
How much of a role did politics play in you being nominated for U.S.?
Well, I don't know how much it played in my being nominated, but it played a whole lot in my not being confirmed. Played a big part. Something we call the ASH Secretary, the Assistant Secretary for Health and Human Services, was a Dr. Phil Lee, who resides in San Francisco now. He's at USC. And he headed up putting up the list, and, you know, he came up to me November, December, said, would I be interested? And I said, you know, I don't know. It's a very nice honor to be considered. I never thought this would go any place. There are 400,000 physicians in America. So I said, let me talk to my family. My wife said, no, absolutely not. Politics is putrid. You don't need to be a part of it. She's smart. I said, well, it's a family decision, so we got the kids to the family vote. Kids said, go for it, Pop. So I told Phil, yeah, sure. So I was in Washington on sabbatical and came home. Just before I got ready to come home, he says, I got listed as, you're on the short list. He says, you need this. They started the vetting process. You know what that is, where they look into your background. Yeah. So the vetting process. And I had a bunch of papers I had to go and get fingerprints and go to the FBI, and they wanted to do a background check. So, you know, so this is good, but I never thought about it again. So I was having lunch one day with a friend in Annapolis, which is about 45 minutes away from Washington. And I got this call from my sabbatical office from the secretary, Cynthia Spriggs. Then she said, Dr. Foster, where are you? I said, I told you where. You know where I am. I'm in Annapolis. She said, well, you need to get back here. The president wants to see you at 5 o'clock. I said, what president? She said, you know what president? Clinton. So I drove back and got cleaned up and went over, and that's where I met him, and we spent almost 2 hours talking mostly about books that we had read in common. I like history, and I've read all the stuff on Lincoln and Gore Vidal's books, all of the stuff on Winston Churchill, little minutiae. You know, his brother Jack married Clarissa, who had a son named Winston, all that stuff. So we just talked about the Civil War, which is very interesting, and that's how I got nominated. The politics came in, of course, afterwards, because I'm an obstetrician gynecologist, and in this country, abortion is legal. That's the Supreme Court. Well, those who opposed it, Bob Dole and Phil Graham, were trying to run for president, and so they were trying to coerce and try to curry the right-wing vote. So they went after to try to destroy my character on obstetrics and the Tuskegee syphilis study and all of this. But one thing your article should point out, most people should understand a couple of things. My nomination was never rejected for Surgeon General. It came out of the Senate Labor and Human Resources Committee with a favorable vote for confirmation. I got all of the Democratic votes and 2 Republican votes. Jim Jeffords, who was then a Republican, who's independent now, and Bill Frist, who's in the Senate now. And I needed 51 votes to be confirmed. I had 57 votes, Senate votes. So the Senate did something that they rarely do at this level. They used a procedure called cloture. It's like a filibuster, which denies an up or down vote. You have to get 60 votes. So my nomination got tabled as opposed to being rejected.
Wow. Okay.
But then after that, the president invited me over to the White House and told me I'd deported myself. Well, it wasn't about me. I thanked him, but I reassured him I was completely aware that it wasn't about me. I knew who I was. I didn't mean to be impertinent. But then he asked me to stay on as his senior advisor on teen pregnancy and youth issues, which I did for 5 years. I had a wonderful office staff budget in the Humphrey building. So it was a good 5 years.
About the confirmation hearings, would you describe those? Were they very stressful, or?
No, I was stressed. That's a picture of me sitting at the table in front of all the mics. That's my wife over my left shoulder, who was very intense. No, it was in fact, I look forward to it because that gave me the forum to make my case, to try to refute all of these spurious allegations that had been made. And I thought I did very well. Maybe a year later, maybe not quite a year later, I was in the Washington Hilton, and this man came up to me in a very thick accent. He said, "Excuse me, are you Dr. Foster?" Yes, sir, I am. I don't remember his name, but he told me he was the president of Azerbaijan. So he said, I saw your confirmation hearings. You deported this very well. I said, thank you. I said, were you in America at that time? He said, oh, no. I saw it on CNN International. It's a small world we live in now. But anyway, life goes on.
How did you feel when you were opposed by so many groups for your stance on abortion? And was abortion the only issue that caused difficulty?
No, two answers to that. First of all, the people who oppose me are not people I really wanted to be associated with anyway. I used to have a saying in my professional career, there are some people I don't want to like me. I don't want them to like me. They're ill. No, that didn't bother me. The issues that they brought up there were false. Some of the senators tried to make me basically the architect of the Tuskegee syphilis study. I was at Tuskegee, and I was president of the medical society at one time, but that study was started even before I was born. And the CDC kept it a secret for 40 years, but they wanted to use that. They tried to find out things about my kids, but that was a blind alley because my kids are squeaky clean. We never got a call about a spitball. I should have never in any kind of trouble. So that didn't work. But it was political. I've learned people almost will try to do anything to get a political advantage. But again, it's about power. But we got to talk about that because there's a way that we can deal with that.